Together, growing in faith, changing communities.
And so, what is culture? Culture is a rather interesting topic. For some, culture it's a summary of customs, beliefs, faith, practice that define people that live together, and they adhere to a particular way of life, and they believe particular system, and so their belief system is quite similar and probably different from others. Okay, so that was what I would call culture. And so that will be what culture is. Religion as well is, to some degree, is associated with culture because it is a set of beliefs, customs, and doctrines that adhere to a particular belief system into a God or a supreme being. Okay, let me go back. I go from John chapter 1, verse 14. The word was made flesh. The word became flesh and dwelt among us. Izwi labanyama lahlala phakathi kwethu. For me, that's a powerful statement because the word in John chapter 1, verse 1, in the beginning was the word was with God, the word was God, and the word is Jesus Christ. And so in John chapter 1, if the word became flesh, it took a human form. It had to be born. It had to become a human person. And St. Paul argues beautifully. He says Jesus was like us in all things but sin. And so Jesus Christ was fully human. I mean, you go to the Gospel of Luke chapter 2, when they go up to the temple and Simeon sees him and he does a beautiful prayer. At last, all powerful Master, you give leave to your servant to go in peace, for my eyes have seen your salvation, which you have prepared for all nations, the light to enlighten the Gentiles, give glory to Israel, your people. Jesus was circumcised. Jesus was presented to the temple. So these show me that Jesus lived as a human person. He ate, he drank, he was hungry, he had friends, he celebrated the Shabbat, the Sabbath, he attended weddings. Those are cultural things. John chapter 2 changed water into wine. You go to the Gospel of Matthew when the angel speaks to Joseph, do not leave Mary, for what she's carrying is of God. And so Jesus was fully human. And the author to the Hebrews says the same thing, that he was fully human. He became like his brothers in all things. And so that is the foundation of my belief in God, but also in culture. And there's this beautiful concept that John Paul II spoke about, inculturation. There's a lot that is good in culture, but there's also some that is not so good in our cultures. But that which is good, let's use it for the greater glory of God. Let's use it to come closer to God, to Jesus, and to become good to one another. And so that concept is quite good. Is it good to consult izangoma? Let me start from, there is a story in the scriptures when Saul had lost his donkey. And when he had lost his donkey, he had gone everywhere looking, and nobody was able to help him. And eventually, a servant from his house came to him and said, there is a prophet in our area, in our place. He can help you. Now, prior to this, let's rewind. Saul the king had made a ruling that nobody is allowed to consult the dead spirits. You're not allowed to consult the dead spirit. And if you did that, Saul will punish you. And so, fast forward, Saul now has lost a donkey. Then this servant says, there is a prophet in our area. Incidentally, in the Old Testament, the Hebrew, the prophet had different names. He was known as a prophet, but he was also known as the seer, obonayo. And so, mukhuluma ngezangoma, abantu ababonayo, abantu abahlolayo. And then, let me just tangent. Are there people who have a gift of seeing things? Yes. Are there people who've been given such gifts by God? Yes. Are they all given by God? Not necessarily. But there are people who have the gift of seeing. They have the gift of insight. They have the gift of interpreting dreams. They have the gift of knowing and bambulelwa okungale. Banesipho. St. Paul talks about the gift of prophecy. The scriptures talks about the gift of prophecy. Let me go back to my original story. Then Saul goes to this prophet. And when he goes to this prophet, he hides himself so that the prophet does not know it is Saul. And when he comes to the seer, the prophet, the seer asks him, whom would you like me to raise from the dead? Guess who comes up? Samuel, the prophet. And as Samuel, the prophet, eqhamuka evela ephakama. Then Samuel says, but you are Saul. Saul, you have done this and this. And the prophet, the seer, says, how can you treat me? Ungivumeleleni ukuba ungitrike ngoba uzongibulala. Ungivumeleleni ukuba ngivuse umoya kaSamuel ukuze uxoxele. And so you find these instances where people have been given the gift by God. They can see things. They can do things. Now, let me go back to the question. Is it wrong to consult spiritual gifted people such as izangoma? The answer is, for me, zikhona izangoma zeqiniso. Zikhona izangoma ezitholele sisipho kuNkulunkulu. But futhi ikhona izangoma zamanga. Bakhona abantu abahlola ababhula ngezilwane. Bakhona abantu abahlola ababhula ngezinto, ngemimoya ekungesigona okukaNkulunkulu. And so the answer is quite simple. If ukuvela uNkulunkulu ngeke kungcole. But makuvela kubantu then ingcolile. Mangibhula ngezilwane, mangisebenzisa izinto ezingcolile, then it can't be of God. But once again, I'm saying zikhona izangoma ezithola isipho kuNkulunkulu. But ikhona futhi egangile. Equally, I'm convinced of this. Bakhona befundisi, bakhona abapriest, bakhona ababishopi, o cardinal, no papa, no mongameli, naba, what is the female priest? Oh, mama umthandazi, nabo bonke bakhona ababizwe ngecebo likaNkulunkulu. Bakhona futhi abayizela uzoyidlela imali. Bakhona abazodlala ngabantu. Bakhona othi musho uthi hayi yabona ke la sekagenjulwa ke la sekudlalwa ngabantu. Ayisekho lena, abisekho uNkulunkulu la. If bevela uNkulunkulu, yes. If not, no. Then the question is, wazi kanjani ke wena? Ubona kanjani ke wena ukuthi lo muntu uvela uNkulunkulu lo akavela uNkulunkulu? For example, ngeke ube isangoma uqhikhowe. I mean, awukwazi ukungitshela ukuthi namhlanje kusasa uvuka usuyisangoma. Fana nabefundisi namhlanje, next month usumfundisi, usuphethe ibantu, hayibo, ngeke ayikho leyo nto. Nokuthi khona into efanele singayikhohlwa. Yazi iningi izangoma. Wisangoma kodwa indlela oyiphatha ngayo, ogqoka ngayo, oyiyona either wangenwa idlozi elingenasimilo noma yikho leyo nto. Ayikho into ezihlonipha njengesangoma. Isigodlo saso siyasihlonipha. Masiyokwenza umsebenzi siyawuhlonipha. Asikwazi ukuphakama enkanjeni emsamu singcolile. Asikwazi ukwelapha umuntu singcolile. And so sometimes ngiyathuka mangibona olimini ekwenzeni bese ngithi mina ayikho into ehlonipha njengedlozi. Kodwa ke angime kancane ke lapho. Thandiwe zami, ngiyabonga kakhulu uNkulunkulu anibusise.